Good morning, Jags. This is Fahad. What's up, gang? How's everyone doing?
Doing fine, Fahad. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Some good moves in the equity markets on some of our favorite stocks. So I'm doing great. Um, what a bloody weekend that was. Doesn't really seem to have any kind of impact on the equity markets, but I don't want to share any of this nonsense and for information on Telegram over the weekend. I don't want to clutter people's mailboxes or anything, but I just wanted to highlight the importance of what I was doing, what I was seeing, and I'm sure many of the people were seeing on major networks. But if you are interested for any reason, go to Twitter and follow this guy, The Real Fly, and all weekend long he has been reporting these tweets after tweets with videos after videos of just breakdowns. About hour and a half drive from my house, there were 5 cars set on fire. Multiple buildings were on fire. Break-ins were taking place everywhere, coast to coast. I mean, you can just go and take a look at some of these videos. I mean, it's just crazy. So many stores. You've been to Jay. You've been to Chicago downtown so many times,
Yeah, I
and
was just there in March.
yeah, and Michigan Avenue. All those big stores. Nike
Sure.
store was stolen. Apple stores. I mean, so many stores were broken in and were just stealing things. Some of them were set on fire as well. So I mean, look at what is this going on? Just
Well, it's clearly obvious that they're protesting the death of someone at the hands of the police. I mean, you can tell how frustrated they are. No, I'm just kidding. They're just animals, Fahad, and I think this is just a mentality that is despicable. I don't want to say too much because this is not the place
yeah.
for it.
Yeah, I mean, so we can just pass on. The most important one that I was watching last night was, and 2 nights actually, when they got very, very close to the White House, and luckily the military police was able to push them back. But something to be mindful of. We just don't know what's coming down the pipe. Okay, moving on. So naturally, because of those protests and everything, there's a couple stocks. In pre-market that are having a big gain. So as you wouldn't be surprised, Sturm Ruger, the gun maker, RGR is the symbol that the stock is sharply gapping higher, closed around 62 and now it's at 67. More people will buy guns. That's the logic. Another one, which we will discuss a bit later in more detail, is Exxon Enterprises. It had a big bullish engulfing candle on Friday and stock closed at 75, and take a look at it in pre-market, now at 83. This thing is gapping higher by more than 10% in pre-market. And so this is the Taser gun maker that we're all familiar with. But it's not only that. Money is possibly going to, because of these disruption, money is possibly going to rotate to some of the same themes that were working previously during the work from home crowd. So I would expect Zoom, ZM, will likely see a new 52-week high this morning. In fact, it's already gapping higher in pre-market by a couple dollars. And similarly, some of the social media properties should see upside, like the way I just shared the Real Fly stream here. So Twitter, it's positive for that, and it's positive for Facebook and and even the Snapchat and all those. Some of these stocks pulled back in recently because of the 230C legislature that Trump is trying to reverse with the executive order that was signed on Thursday. So now let's see if the money will start to rotate back into them. So I expect Twitter to actually start to move higher from these levels. This was at support finishing on Friday, right at support. So there's a potential new leg higher coming. Similarly, Facebook has pulled back from its 52-week high from 240 to 225. Currently, I expect Facebook to start to move higher because of these protests precisely. So that's what I'm watching. See, there's money to be made in short term in some of these social media properties. I do want to, staying on Facebook, I do want to share this one story that I thought was very interesting, which came from the New York Times not too long ago. in which they talk about Instagram wants its influencers to make more money, and the platform announced updates aimed at helping creators monetize their audience. So, just to give you a quick background, right now, if you are producing any kind of video on the competitor, which is Google's YouTube, and you're trying to monetize it, if after you have reached certain threshold of following, I think it's 1,000 or 2,000 followers, then they can embed advertisements in your videos, and they can share the revenues from those advertisements on YouTube video with the actual publisher. And as a result, it becomes a nice relationship between the publisher of those videos as well as Google. But Google only share 50% of the ad revenues. In case of IGTV, which is Instagram, Instagram wants to share as many as 70 to 80% of the total revenues they derive from advertising in those videos with the publishers themselves. And so this becomes a very competitive race now between YouTube and IGTV. And so this is a story that came out. If this takes off, just simply for the reasons that IGTV now has more than 2 billion, or Instagram in general has more than 2 billion users worldwide, very large following now, and people start to monetize, then this could become a very big growth driver, not only for the company itself, but also a very nice win situation for the publishers. With the introduction of badges, creators will be able to make money through Instagram Live, which has seen more engagement since widespread stay-at-home orders were put in place. The company reported 70% increase in views from February to March. So you can just see how strongly this is already working in the favor of Facebook, with everybody is staying at home, the work from home crowd, and these protests and the new engagement that they're working on is only just going to be more positive for Facebook. So let's see if the stock is actually going to tick higher from this. Another stock that I'm watching closely is Tencent, TCEHY. TCEHY, Tencent had a nice big bullish engulfing candle, a big rally on Friday. And this is the kind of candle essentially that begins a new leg higher. If you watch carefully, this was the support after the stock broke out. This was the support, and it bounced off from the very important support. And if we see more follow through, we're going to get to $58 to $60 per share in Tencent. That's TCEHY. The story about this that caught my attention was how Epic Games, which is 40% owned by Tencent, could potentially change the future of how movies are produced in the Hollywood. Basically, no more green screen in the background, far more VR, virtual reality, as well as augmented reality technology usage. And so on May 13, Epic Games announced their new Epic Games Unreal Engine 5, which will be released to public later this year. The Unreal Engine allows game developers to create photoreal visions that are extraordinary. With rapid advancements from Unreal as well as others in VR's space such as Unity, Blender, and etc., it's only a matter of time before it impacts film departments in every production around the world. There's some very cool videos here if you guys like to watch. This article is on Medium. You can see how previously there would be a green screen in the back to produce these videos, and now all of that will be changed with new ways of how high quality 8K videos could be produced using their technology. So the shift is coming, and looks like Epic Games, which is 40% owned by Tencent, it's a privately held company, but 40% owned by Tencent, would be at the cusp of providing the necessary technology to bring about those changes to Hollywood. So let's see how this stock reacts. A nice, very nice bounce off the $52 per share. And the last stock that I want to quickly discuss is just a technical view, is Boston Scientific, BSX. This has a technical setup for a breakout this week. Could be today, could be later this week, but the way this thing has been acting, and also if you layer on top of it the Bollinger Bands, you will see that the stock is actually, the Bollinger Bands have been tightening. What I really like is the volume behind this move, the new fresh leg higher that has been happening in the last couple of days. That means it has thrust behind it. It's likely to break out through $38.50 and could be on its way to new 52-week high. I'm missing my VOP bars over here, so let me just refresh my charts and put those VOP bars as well. There you go. So here you go, the BSX. So if it breaks out through the 38.50, then I think this has room to run up to $42 per share. There's a bit of air pocket in short term. The only thing I will say fundamentally about BSX is a quick view that came out from Bank of America this morning, and they talked about how Watchman is going to become a stronger and bigger growth driver for the company going forward. There's a lot of competition in this particular space, particularly from Abbott Labs, but generally speaking, the Watchman is a $7 billion market opportunity. And there's high confidence that the LAAC market opportunity can easily see support from multiple players. There are over 7 million patients in the United States alone with AFIB, and there are others that are 1 million new patients each year coming. So globally, this is the market for 15 million patients. And for Watchman, they did, Boston Scientific did about $350 million in revenues in 2018, rising to $500 million in 2019. And this could be potentially going forward, become a $1 billion growth driver for the company. So technically, let's watch this and see if it breaks out through 38.50. There's a nice technical setup here. Then it's going to face some resistance around 200-day. If it takes that out too, then I think no resistance until 42.20 looking at these charts. So that's it from me. Avo, what are you looking at?
I don't have anything to start the week because I just wanted to just wait around and feel the market a little bit. A couple of things I have been eyeing, although this is more of perhaps a technical play than anything, is Camping World Holdings, CWH, and Thor. They just run up quite a bit and could be maybe just technically setting up for a pullback. On Thor, I did notice a small bear put spread last Thursday, which is just a short-term June play. So just keep an eye on this. This one, especially the Camping World holding actually has gone up more, but Thor has gone back and retesting that February high. Usually stocks don't break to new highs on the first try. So it's just a little bit of a gap underneath that could get filled, a few bucks down there, but it will be a very fast play. Otherwise, the flip side of this is that if it does pull back, watch for a second attempt on a new high.
Yeah, there is. They have been seeing improving shipment data. I'm trying to pull.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The sales have been have improved because, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I expect domestic travel to be pretty high this year due to international travel restrictions. So I think we'll see a lot of campers, a lot of domestic tourism increase. I was quickly reading something about Stay is the ticker, and I can't remember.
There is no question, everything was hurt pretty badly in March and April. So you can see that the April wholesale shipment data that came out for RV was just a complete disaster. However, the sequential improvement that since then has been reported for the month of May, and I think some data has come out on a weekly basis, has been ridiculously strong. My personal view is more technical in nature. And I agree that some of these charts are extended quite a bit, THO, WGO. WGO is one of the ones that more stable in my view of all of them. I think it's bigger than DHO. So if it pulls back to 50 or 49, then we can take a look at it at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a technical play. There's fundamentally they are seeing a lot of interest and should do well.
Yeah. Jay, what do you have?
Hey, Fahad, what's going on? So actually, just to add to the RV discussion, on Friday in the chat room, I talked about two REITs, Equity Lifestyle Properties, ELS, and Sun Communities, SUI. They will be presenting this week at, there's a REIT conference happening starting tomorrow and running through the 4th. And the reason why I bring these two stocks up is because they do have exposure to the RV community. So you're probably going to get some operational updates from them on that topic. And then the other thing I'll say is that they have a manufactured housing segment, and based on what BMO said, the rent collection for those has been around 96 to 98%. So, you know, they appear to be doing well.
Yeah, just for those who do not know, Jay, if you go to the website, Jaguar Live, and you pull up the chat room from May 29, this is where Jay discussed in the chat room the recreational vehicle REITs, ELS, and SUI, and a bullish note was presented right there, so you can get some more information from there. Good stuff.
No problem. And then just very quickly, I wanted to provide an update on some of the animal health names. You know, last week, we talked about Zoetis, and I did mention that they would be presenting at the Jaws and Paws conference that Stifel was holding. And just some very quick takeaways on Zoetis. You know, once again, the CEO, Kristen Peck, commented about companion animal trends, how they're showing solid improvement, and they are actually 1 to 2 weeks ahead of their own expectations. And with Simparica Trio, you know, you have their sales reps who have been working from home. You know, that we'll kind of see how that transpires, but I mean, they're aggressively pursuing market share gains for this new tablet.
And I think, and I think Simparica will take the market share because everything that I have seen, it's actually the total acceptance rates from the medical practitioners community and from the vet offices for Simparica has been quite strong, and they want a new product. There has not been a new product since NextGuard, you know, 5 years ago or something. So they're going to come and they're going to take a lot of this market share. And I think some of the analyst consensus views around Simparica sales for 2020 could be on the low end, in my view.
And very quickly, the other stock is Trupanion, which we get a lot of questions about from time to time. They were also presented last week at the conference, and one of the items they talked about was their recent expanded partnership with State Farm. They basically went from 6 US states to now 49. And they're going to be rolling all of this out in 3 phases. Phase 1 is just getting on the State Farm website. Phase 2 involves a more integrated approach on their website. And then phase 3 is rolling it out to all of the State Farm agents across the United States. So look, the collaboration is in the early days with no type of bundled offering yet. So we'll need to keep an eye on any updated commentary coming out from that partnership.
You know, State Farm services 83 million policies and accounts throughout the United States. 83 million policies and accounts. Now, I understand that there could be a lot of overlaps there because a family could have multiple different types of State Farm policies, from life insurance to auto insurance to health insurance to other kinds of stuff. So the number is probably far less if you go by household, but you can imagine, even if I take the 83 million and dissect that number in much more detail and break it down, maybe 10 million, 20 million now becomes the addressable market size for Trupanion with this partnership to start selling its pet insurance policies to all of these accounts. I mean, think about how the numbers could drastically change if they have even some success. To give you one idea, this is exactly what happened when, for example, Teladoc, before this whole shutdown, signed a large partnership with Centene and United Health. This was almost a year ago, and nobody was really paying attention to what Teladoc was trying to do. And then all of a sudden, now all of those partnerships are coming to light, and stock just took off. Something similar could happen to Trupanion, and right now, not many are paying attention to it. Good stuff. So, Chronicle, what's up, buddy?
Hey Fahad, so this is related to Axon Enterprise. Symbol for that is AAXN. This was a proposed idea from late April, and I know most of this is conjecture. There's no channel checks yet, but with all these protests that were initially sparked by police brutality, I think the non-lethal solutions to law enforcement will only gain traction here. I guess the most obvious point here is that U.S. unemployment and crime are closely related. So if we were to look at one of the charts I shared in our chat, this chart was taken from a 2016 study, and what this shows is that the recorded cases of crime begin spiking almost 50% versus population-wide average in the very first year of job displacement, which is denoted by year 0 on this chart. In the simplest terms, what this means is that if you lose your job, you are immediately in year 0 50% more likely to commit crime than you would usually be. And in a separate joint study by UC Berkeley and the Center for Economic Policy Research, they found a correlation between property crime rates and unemployment in the 1990s. So these are just a couple examples. A Google search would probably yield plenty of other similar studies. Switching gears now, for the next chart, which I got from Statista, this chart shows historical full-time police force employment. So the key thing here to note is to notice how even though unemployment went up during the 2008 to 2009 financial crisis, the size of the police force barely dropped. Like the headcount only started to drop in 2012, which was a couple years after we got confirmation of the economic recovery. So in a sense, this suggests that job security in law enforcement is almost like the opposite of job security in private sector during a recession. And for the last chart that I shared, this chart was taken from a Princeton University study, and it demonstrates that a higher concentration of police actually results in lower crime costs per capita. This is important because the latest statistics show that the US only has approximately 1 police officer per 400 people. So we may be looking at the possibility of higher headcounts from here. Now, turning our attentions to Axon Enterprise, we can see from the price chart that the stock has rocketed after the last earnings. In my opinion, that's due to the street forgetting to price in the fact that the first 12 months of the 5-year subscription plan is where Axon will stand to benefit the most, because in the first year, the plan includes additional monthly fees for training, warranty, and the like. So that was what caused the upside surprise from the earnings. And we can see shortly after that, the market began aggressively taking profits because there was no more further upside to price in. Because after 2020 is done, that particular tailwind will no longer be in effect. That was the thinking back then. But now, with all these protests against police brutality, I'm just wondering if various districts are going to start making extra budget allocations for Axon's non-lethal solutions. And technically, you know me, Fahad, I'm always more inclined to buy dips rather than breakouts. The stock has pulled back to a very strong support level, consolidating around $75, where it's been accumulating for a couple weeks now. But we can see that in pre-market, the stock is shooting up. So the strategy here, if you're not in the stock, would be to wait for a pullback, because I think because in terms of time horizon, I think the protests will likely drag on. But in terms of intensity, I think we're seeing the peak of it right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if the protests die down and the stock pulls back a bit, and that's where I would pick them up.
Good stuff. By the way, for those who do not know, Chronicle sent me his complete write-up on one of the thematic long ideas, Axon Enterprises. This was back in April. There's complete literature behind this. I had not released to the clients yet to discuss the bullish case. There's a lot of really incredible stuff over here, all discussed. But I will issue it in time. But more important thing is that I want to just quickly highlight, both Jay and I have done tremendous amount of work in the past on Axon Enterprises. And I used to actually own this stock for a while too, and I made some really good money, and then I closed the position, have not entered for almost a year now. But Jay knows this very well too, that the website, Jay, what is that website for Axon Enterprises? The one that became a SaaS play, essentially. They converted the company into into a software company.
Yeah, you had Axon Evidence and then Axon Records.
Right, Exxon Evidence. That's the one that I was talking about. You know, this company is no longer just about making taser guns and selling to police. It's also about actually collecting data, tons and tons of data on whether they collect that data from cameras or body armors or taser guns or just the general data about the crime rates, whether it's from video cams installed on street lights and such, and turning basically all of their data and random data into some synchronized valuable use so that the authorities can take a look at it and then make a decision in real time. And so this is gradually has turned into a very, very strong, powerful SaaS company. And it's the pure leader in that space right now with nobody else doing it. So there's a whole lot of logic behind this. Lots of great work has been done by Jay and I in the past. It was made one of the top picks as well previously. And so one to keep an eye on. And I love the view that that this thing is gonna be up 10% today when the market opens. Let's see if it pulls back, if it gives an entry. But I think that $77, $78 per share now is now the bottom in the stock. Any pullback to that level should continue to support this name for more upside.
One more to add, American Outdoor, AOBC.
Yeah.
They've changed their ticker to SWBI because they're doing a separation of their gun and outdoor recreation stuff.
I see.
So
Okay.
just for those who have traded that, they make American Outdoors makes the Smith & Wesson brand guns and ammo. So just that shows that it's up, but I don't know how much of it is correct.
Perfect. Hey, Chronicle, can you separate your write-up just for AAXN from the other stuff, BHP and others, and then send me just that updated write-up to me with the updated chart, so I have it handy when I want to release it to clients?
Sure, fine.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Hopefully this was constructive. I will see you in the chat room shortly.